Hey, if it's your first time at Gracegate today, I just want you to know you're in a safe space. I want you to know that you don't actually have to believe in Jesus to belong here. Maybe as we've been singing some of these songs, you don't connect with them and you don't know what it's all about. But our hope is that feel comfortable in this space. And at the heart of Gracegate, we always share this saying that no perfect people are allowed. So that's who we are. And if you're joining us for the first time for whatever reason, we're glad that you're here today. And you couldn't have joined us on a better day because today we're kicking off a brand new series. And I'm going to share something that I've probably shared with this community probably every single year. Maybe a few times a year, so it's the same message, but pretty much it's who we are as a community and what the church is all about. So that's what you're in store for today. However, if it's not your first time and you're here for the second, third time, or you just attend every single week, you're a Gracegate addict like a lot of us here, I'm glad that you're here as well. And I wanted to start off today with just sharing a bit of immense gratitude. And the reason I want to do that is because don't you think the stage is cool? Hey? We got our, I don't know if they're engineers or what, but we got them in just yesterday. And Andy and Zach smashed this all together in, was it 1 hour? Okay, a few hours. But hey, we really appreciate that, Andy and Zach. I know you guys spent quite a lot of time. But this looks awesome, and can we just give them a big hand for what they did? I was going to call you up to the front, but I thought, I won't do that today. So, another cool, exciting thing that just happened last night was our Radiate environment kicked off. And that is from 9 to 13 years old. And I drove down the road and I just saw our reserve was packed with kids. I heard the music pumping. And it's such an awesome place to be when you see young people who are coming to a church and actually just having some great mentors and volunteers who are doing whatever they can to raise the next generation. And I loved Volta. He put on our staff thread probably at about, 10 o'clock maybe. Just some of the volunteers who were still here making sure that the whole place is cleaned up because, when you have so many kids around, you can imagine how the place looks after. But also immense gratitude for all the volunteers who continuously contribute to that environment because it truly is, if you're a parent, I'm not, but if you're a parent, you know how valuable that environment is for your kids. And so I just want to thank those volunteers as well. And on that note, I wanted to share a bit of housekeeping today. So it's, if you're here for the first time, I don't do this all the time, but there's something that I want to speak about. And it's actually something that's going to kick off this next week. And I want you all to know that before I share this isn't a judgment on anyone. I'm not pointing fingers at anyone. But we want to be a church that is raising the next generation, all right? And we want to set them up to win in life. And you know that our values here at Gracegate is that everyone is welcome. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter what you've been through. You are welcome in this space. But one of the things that I've noticed, and as a team we've noticed, which happens quite often at Gracegate, is we got a lot of smokers, right? And this is no judgment on any smokers and any people who vape. But one of the things that we've noticed is a lot of our younger generation are actually just seeing you guys do that. And for us as a team, we actually want to set them up to win. And so what we're actually doing is we're going to change Gracegate and make it a whole smoke-free and vape-free zone starting this week, all right? Now, please, if you smoke, we love you. We care about you. We hope you actually stop smoking, all right? But we're going to have this space as a smoke and a vape-free area outside as well. And it's only just because we want to model something to our younger generation that's going to help them succeed in life. Is that okay? All right. If you want to quit smoking, we want to journey alongside you and try and help you as well. So if that sounds like you, and I know it's an addiction that is really hard to kick, and if that's you and you want us to come and journey alongside you, please come and speak to us as well. But if not, and you want to keep smoking, you can, but just not here. But you're welcome here all the time. All right? Is that good? Does that make sense? Cool. Other than that, I'm just going to share now my heart about what I feel church is all about and why we exist as a community. So if you don't know much about Gracegate, this is our mission. Gracegate exists to what? To share God's love and what? Saving grace, all right? That's our heart. That is, we create environments constantly. Yeah, at Gracegate, we have so many different programs, and we have a heart to actually share God's love, all right, in a way that is actually relevant to each and every single person. And we do it with our community, all right? We're doing it with our community. Anyone in our sphere of influence, whether it be in this building or outside of this building, this is what we stand for. And the reason we do that is so that people can become fully devoted followers of Christ, all right? Yeah, at Gracegate, we don't just want to come to church on a Saturday and enjoy it, or, come during the week and enjoy it, but our whole vision and our mission is to actually share God's love and saving grace so that people can become fully devoted followers of Christ. Now, what that means is that actually, and we all believe that if you become a fully devoted follower of Jesus Christ, your life will be better. And the reason I say your life will be better is because you will be making wiser choices in life. I'm not saying your life will be easier, but it will be better. And one of the things we believe here at Gracegate is that each and every one of us want to try and go on the spiritual journey, that we're taking our next step in faith continuously, so that we're growing and we're following Jesus step by step. All of us are at different steps in our faith, but that's our heart, that actually will share God's love and saving grace so that you can become a fully devoted follower of Jesus. It might take a week, it may take a couple months, it may take years, it may never happen, but that's our heart. Now, we have 3 values here at Gracegate, and the first one's up already. It says, hey, we value belonging, all right? And that's pretty much what I just introed, that no perfect people are allowed. And I know there are people sitting in this audience today who don't have faith, who don't believe in God, who don't believe in Jesus, and you are welcome in this space, all right? This is the best place that you could be in. Our heart is that you become a fully devoted follower of Jesus, but if you don't want to, that's fine with us, but we want you to know that you belong. You don't have to behave a certain way. You can belong, and you don't have to behave a certain way here at Gracegate. You don't have to believe in order to belong here at Gracegate. That's our core value, and this is what we strive for. The next thing that we value is discovering, and this is in the context of our faith. We believe that all of us are on this journey of faith, and we want to discover more about God. We're a church that doesn't know everything about God. All of us are on a spiritual journey, and we're trying to figure out, hey, more about God. So we have a teachable spirit. We have open hands. We say, hey, we're here to learn from each other. Each and every one of us can grow and learn from anyone in this environment. It could be someone younger than us. It could be someone older than us. And that's one thing that we value, is discovering. And the big thing is, hey, what is God's story all about? What is my story all about? And how does that fit together? So that's why we value discovering. And the third core value that we have at Gracegate is we value engaging. All right? We don't just want you to come and sit on the chair and enjoy, the program, but we actually want you to be a participant. We don't want you just to stand on the sideline of the game, but we want you to get engaged, because we believe we can make a bigger difference, not a point, a bigger difference, when we're all engaged and we're just using our uniqueness, the God-given gifts that each and every one of us have to actually make a difference in our community. So that's a bit about who we are. And one of the things that, if you've been here for a while, you'll recognize this guy. This guy, we've given him a whole number of names over the couple of years that we've had Gracegate, but today we'll just call him the Green Man, all right, or the Move Man. And does this look familiar to you? Yeah, where have you seen this before? The exit signs, right? Okay, there's one right there. There's one on that door there. There's two on that door there. And a big part is this is actually who we are as a church. Because we believe that church isn't this building, all right? Church isn't coming here on a Saturday, but we are the church. And actually, the whole thing about the church is not an organization, but it's actually a movement that actually makes a difference in this world. So at the core and sort of in our mind constantly, we always have this green man reminding us that, hey, when we leave this building, we still want to be the church. We still want to be Gracegate. We still want to share God's love and saving grace so that people can become fully devoted followers of Christ. We still want to value belonging. We still want to value discovering. We still want to value engaging. So this is the whole thing about this green man. And this green man, actually, I love the song that we just sang because the green man should encourage us to step outside of our comfort zone, all right, and step into the faith zone. Because that's what we believe God is calling us to do. To actually say to us, hey, there's someone sitting there who's alone. And wouldn't it be good if we just moved across the room, if we just walked across the room and we went and just connected with that person and just started to chat to them with no agenda, just started to chat to them, just got to know them. And maybe then we could hear a bit more about their story. In our community, constantly we see that there's so many needs. Today, as we sit here in this community, there's needs. We're all struggling through different stuff, and we believe that we're better together. So this man reminds us, hey, just walk across the room, move across the room, get outside of your comfort zone and speak to someone, hear their story. And if God allows, actually share your story and actually share about the picture of God. So this is the green man in the back of our heads, right? However, I want to quickly go back to our mission and our vision because I feel we might have missed something really important about this. Because if we go back to our mission, right in the beginning, it says Gracegate exists, right? Exists. What does exists mean? Who knows what that means? Exist. Not a trick question. It's there, right? We can see it. It's actually in front of us. It's visible. Some of us have experienced what can actually happen when we see this at work. But this is not the building. This is not the building. This Gracegate exists is you and me. That is what Gracegate is. Gracegate is the people. It's you and me. So what happens if Gracegate stops to exist? What happens if you and I start to decide, oh, you know what, I'm just a bit tired of sharing God's love. I just want to take a break for a while. I just want to stop a bit. What happens when we say, hey, I'm done with all of this and like, I don't know, man, with our community, like there's so many fears and there's so much stuff going on in my own life, I'm just going to stop a bit. What happens when we stop doing this? Well, I can tell you what happens. I can tell you already what's happening is that the need in our community increases. And what we see now, even as I speak to you today, is the need is beyond the capacity that we as a church can actually meet. There's too many people, there's too many families, There are too many broken people. There's too many people struggling with addictions. There's too many people going hard in life. And there's not enough of Gracegate to actually make a difference. There's not enough of people who say, hey, man, I want to share God's love and saving grace. So what do we do about this? What do we do if this stops to exist? What happens if we settle for where we are? Well, today I want to try and illustrate it, that it sticks in our heads. And the only way I can illustrate this is by a story that I've told numerous times, but it's the story of me learning how to ride a motorbike, all right? And I want this to stick in your mind, all right? So what I've done is I've asked Blair to try and help me out so I can actually reenact this whole story that happened to me. Is that okay? All right? Should we get Blair to come out? All right, Blair, can you come and help me? Can we give him a hand? Slash Evil Knievel, all right? How many of you ride motorbike? Yeah? Do you enjoy it? Cool. Blair, you can switch it off. So pretty much, when I was 19 years old, it was the first time that I learned how to ride a motorbike, all right? Growing up, my mom, and maybe your mom's similar, but she continuously told me how dangerous a motorbike is, all right? She said, Wes, if you step on the bike, you know it's going to be like a casket on wheels, all right? So don't ever ride a motorbike. So I never did. I was pretty much a good son, all right, in that area of my life. But I never rode a motorbike, and only once I had left home, my friend had a motorbike, and one day he said to me, hey, Wes, why don't I teach you how to ride motorbike? So I was pretty keen, but as you would know, I would have had this indoctrinated in the back of my mind that it's dangerous, I got to be careful, and it was kind of a fear, right? So anyway, my friend said, hey, today's the day, Wes, you're going to learn how to ride a motorbike. So Blair, if you can help illustrate this, but he told me to get on the bike. I'm not going to do it now, but Blair's on the bike. And it was just us two, pretty much similar to this, except we were on a dirt road, a farm road, and Rob and Shaw actually just lived up the road from where I learned how to ride a motorbike. So, and it was a kickstart, all right? Wasn't as fancy as this bike. You actually had to kick it to get it started. So he said to me, Wes, what you have to do is you get on the bike, you obviously hold the steering, okay? We all know how to steer pretty much. He said, hey, you kick the bike, and then you put the clutch in. So those who don't know, this is the clutch, all right? You pull it in, and pretty much then where the gears?
So let's leave it here. On this bike, it's one down, that's first gear.
Okay.
And then the rest are up.
Okay, perfect, all right? So to change the gears, you have to click your foot down, we'll go in first gear, and then click all the gears up. And he explained that to me, and he said, that's pretty much it, Wes, and all you have to do now is you get it started, hold the clutch in, release it slowly, give it some petrol, give it some gas, all right, and then you're going to take off and you're going to ride. And so I was really excited. I got on the bike, and I really struggled to kickstart it, all right? It took me forever to kickstart it. Eventually, I got it started. And then, yeah, it sounded like that. And obviously, what do you have to do? You got to do, just give it some gas there, yeah. You know, it's got to sound good. And then I put it in, I pulled in my clutch, I clicked it into first gear, all right. And then I was super stoked. I released the clutch, and it jerked forward like that and cut out, all right. That's exactly what happened, all right. So my friend said, oh, that's okay. Pretty much you just got to release it a bit slower, give it some more petrol, and then you'll get started. So I did it again. I started it up, right, put it in first gear, and I did the exact same and released it, and it cut out like that. Who can relate? Be honest. If you've ridden, yeah, okay, cool. I'm not alone. I'm not exaggerating now, but probably it took me about 30 times, all right, to when I eventually released the clutch at the right time, and then I actually started to ride motorbike, Blair. And maybe you could just give us a ride quick, Blair. Oh, the feeling of riding a motorbike. I can see there's a lot of fear, yeah, right? But I was on and I was riding, I was in first gear, and still at the back of my mind, I had this voice saying, Wes, be careful, okay? A motorbike is like a casket on wheels. So I was in first gear, I went down the road, I kicked it into second gear, all right? And I went all the way down the road, I came all the way back. And when I got back, I think I remember coming back and stopping and stalling in front of my friend. But he said to me, how was it, Wes? And I said, it was amazing. He said, Wes, how fast did you go? And I said, I don't know, like 30 kilometers per hour, so. And he's like, no, Wes, if you really want to experience riding a motorbike, you got to go all the way. You got to go all the way. You got to give it gas. You got to kick all the gears in. You got to go full throttle. So I said, I don't know, I started it up again. All right, put it in first gear. And Blair, you don't have to enact this again, but I did stall again, all right, a few times. And eventually I started it up again. And I went down the farm road. And Blair, maybe you could just take it for a ride. Maybe just keep in second gear. Can you do that? All right. First gear. And that's pretty much what I did. But then, for the love of it, and you don't have to do it today, Blair, but I went into third gear. I went into fourth gear, and I gave it all the petrol I could. Thanks, Blair. Can we give Blair a hand? Yeah, you thought you were coming to an ordinary church today. Thanks, Blair. One thing I learned that day was that, hey, riding a motorbike, actually, if you really want to experience it, you got to go all the way. And for myself, I had to actually overcome my fear, and I actually had to give it all the gas that I could to actually really experience it. I was cruising down the farm road. The wind was blowing. It just had this adrenaline and this feeling of, hey, this is awesome. And I strongly believe that some of us are stuck in second gear in our walk with God. Some of us are so content where we are, and we're missing so much more that God actually has for us. Some of us have this fear that actually, you know what, I'm not sure, I don't believe this whole thing, and I don't know, it sounds suspect to actually get on a motorbike and actually ride it in our faith journey, and so we never do. But my hope is that all of us, at least this year, will at least just take our next step in our faith journey. That we'll just decide, hey, you know what? I've been at this gear for so much time in my life. And actually, for the love of it, I want to actually take the next step. I want to shift gears and go into the next gear, because if we go into the next gear, we're going to move further, faster. That's our hope. So the way I want to share this with you is by sharing a story that hopefully encapsulates this whole thing of shifting gears. And it's probably one of my favorite stories that's found in the book of Luke. And it's actually, Luke was an eyewitness. He was a guy who actually followed Jesus around. He was a doctor. And he records a story about a guy who I believe he sort of shifted gears. He said, hey, you know what? I'm over just being stuck in second gear. I'm going to go to the next gear. And you may have heard this story. It's a story about a guy called Zacchaeus. So follow along. I want to just share in a few minutes what this story is all about. And I believe that this is actually the heart of who we are as a church, as a people. So Luke picks it up here. He says, Jesus entered Jericho and was passing through. A man was there by the name of Zacchaeus. He was a what? A what? A chief tax collector and what? He was wealthy, right? Okay, so here we have the characters are who? Who do we have? Jesus, right? Jesus is going to Jericho. He's not going to stay in Jericho, but he's just passing through. And to give you a bit of context of Jericho, it was probably not the nicest place that you'd want to stay in, all right? It wasn't a place that you'd fancy much to actually be around. And there were a lot of religious leaders. There were a lot of tax collectors. And Zacchaeus is a chief tax collector who was actually despised by the Jewish nation, all right? All the Jews hated the tax collectors because basically they felt they were being scammed because the tax collectors actually worked for the Roman government. And it was as if they were cheating their own people. So Zacchaeus is not only a tax collector, but he's a chief tax collector, all right? He's at the top of, if we had to think about it, like the guys who are outcasts because no one actually likes them, all right? They're outcasts because they lie, they steal, they cheat. And in today's society, he'd probably be at the bottom of the rank of people like who were just the worst of the worst of the worst. Does that make sense? All right. But Zacchaeus obviously didn't care because of what? His wealth. All right. He had a lot of money. So Zacchaeus, he didn't care if he was cheating people. He had no vision for his life except for having money, for having wealth. Luke continues to tell the story and he says he wanted to see who Jesus was. But because he was short, he could not see over the crowd. All right. What does Zacchaeus want to do here? He wants to see who Jesus was. All right. We don't really know why Zacchaeus wanted to see who Jesus was. And it is probably because it was going around Jericho that there's this guy who was doing all these healings. There's this guy who was actually claiming he's the Son of God. And he was doing miraculous stuff. He was actually making a difference in the community. And so Zacchaeus, he wants to see Jesus, all right? We don't know why. It doesn't say Zacchaeus wanted to see Jesus so that he could turn his life around. It doesn't say Zacchaeus wanted to see Jesus because he wanted to become a fully devoted follower of Jesus. No, all we know is that Zacchaeus wanted to see who Jesus was. However, he encounters a few obstacles. And number one, what is that obstacle? He's short, right? He's short. And what is the second obstacle? He could not see over the crowd. Now, I've read this story numerous times, all right? I've taught on this story numerous times, but only this week did I notice this, that actually the thing that was obstructing Zacchaeus from seeing Jesus was what? The crowd, right? It wasn't because he was short, because if the crowd wasn't there, Zacchaeus would be able to see Jesus, right? So actually, yeah, the crowd was obstructing Zacchaeus to see Jesus. And I thought a bit about that. I said, well, who was the crowd? We don't know exactly, but I can guarantee you that the crowd was probably full of religious leaders, the guys who were actually the church, were actually obstructing Zacchaeus from seeing Jesus. Well, what am I saying? Well, could it be that maybe at times we as a church, we as a people, in trying to follow Jesus, we're actually obstructing people who are so far from God, who are outcasts, to actually see Jesus? And at the heart of Gracegate, it is that we would actually open a way, would open a grace gate so that we could actually show people and point to Jesus. And as Paul always shares, and as we want to be this kind of church, hey, let's not make it difficult for people who are turning towards God. Let's try and help them to see who God is. It goes on, the story goes on, and he says, so he ran ahead and he climbed a sycamore fig tree to see him, since Jesus was coming that way. I love this. Zacchaeus is proactive. Zacchaeus actually shifts gears. He says, hey, I want to go and see Jesus, so I'm going to make the effort. I'm going to take my next step. I'm going to make a plan to actually go and position myself so that I can see Jesus. He does the work so that he can see who Jesus is. We don't know why he wants to see him, but he does the effort. He actually shifts gears so that he can see who Jesus was. He climbs up a tree, and if you think about this for Zacchaeus, the chief tax collector, would have almost been pretty embarrassing to climb up a tree, and I'm sure he wouldn't have wanted to be noticed. The story goes on. When Jesus reached the spot, he looked up and he said to him, and I love this part. Check what Jesus says. Zacchaeus, come down immediately. You're a disgrace to humanity. You're shocking. You're such a fake. Good for nothing. Cheater, liar, scammer, fraud, selfish. Sorry for nothing, shorty. Jesus drops the mic. Jesus doesn't say that. He doesn't say that, but that's often what we do as a community, as a church. We often call people by their sin. This is actually what Jesus says. When Jesus reached the spot, I love this, he looked up, and I thought about that. He looked up. How often are we looking down on people because of their sin? But Jesus looks up, and just looks up, obviously, because Zacchaeus is in the tree. But then he says, Zacchaeus, come down immediately. I must stay at your house today. I love this because Jesus, no doubt, knew Zacchaeus' sin, but he calls him by his name. You see, the enemy, the one who wants to steal from us, he knows our name, but he calls us by our sin. Come on, let's not become a church that actually calls people by their sin instead of calling people by their true identity, the way Jesus sees Zacchaeus. I love this name Zacchaeus, because Zacchaeus comes from the Hebrew word Zacchaeus, and it actually means righteous one. Righteous one. Was Zacchaeus righteous? No ways. No ways, but his whole name encompasses the way God views him and the way God views each and every one of us. He says, Zacchaeus, come down immediately. I must stay at your house today. And he goes on. He says, so he came down at once and he welcomed him gladly. And I love that. Like, there's no hesitation, because, Zacchaeus has already positioned himself. He's already shifted gears. He's already been like, hey, I'm not sure about this Jesus guy, but I want to see what he's all about. And then Jesus initiates the first step and actually calls Zacchaeus by his name and says, hey, Zacchaeus, I want to actually just come and spend time with you. I want to hang out with you. This would have been foreign to Zacchaeus. Hugely foreign. Who wants to spend time with me? I'm a fraud. I steal. I don't have a heart for anybody. But Jesus sees him by his true identity. And he says, hey, I want to hang out with you. I want to spend some time with you. So he welcomed him gladly. The story goes on then. And it says, all the people saw this and began to what? What did they do? Come on, can we all say that word together? Mutter. All right, what is mutter? Mutter. Oh, you know what mutter is. I mean, there's no one in this building who hasn't muttered before. All right, we all mutter because it's crazy stuff that is happening here. All the people, pretty much in this context, it was probably all the religious people, all the church people saw this and they began to mutter, he has gone to be the guest of a sinner. He's going to be a guest of a sinner. The religious people, the church people, they said, hey, they were muttering, like, how can this be? Why? Why does he show so much value to people who are so far gone? To people who are broken, to people who are ripping us off. Why does Jesus have such a heart for them? Why does he want to actually spend time with them? Why does he even invite himself to Zacchaeus' house? This is crazy. But this is the heart of God. He says, hey, go, and it goes on, and then it says, but Zacchaeus stood up and he said to the Lord, I love this. Look, Lord, like he hangs out with Jesus for a while, and Luke doesn't give all the details from how much time they actually spent together or what happened in those conversations. But what we can see is that, hey, Zacchaeus stands up and he says, look, Lord, yeah, and now I give half of my possessions to the poor. And if I have cheated anybody out of anything, I will pay back 4 times the amount. Something shifts in Zacchaeus that is supernatural. Something shifts in Zacchaeus from actually spending time with Jesus that no human being could actually do. Because none of us can actually change anybody. I've tried. I'm sure you've tried as well. I'm sure some of your prayers are like, man, I wish I could just change this person. But none of us have that power. But this encounter with Jesus changes Zacchaeus from a taker to a giver. To someone who actually says, hey, I understand my need, and this is amazing to see how much you care about me, God. And I'm going to be generous. Please, where I've ripped off people, I want to give them what they deserve back and more. And the thing that this encompasses is that Zacchaeus decides, hey, I want to make a difference. That's what we as a church want to be. We don't just want to be a church that chases people away and is like, all messy. We want to be a messy church where people like Zacchaeus is sitting every single week. And if you want to know what a messy person looks like, you probably saw that person in the mirror this morning. Because all of us are. All of us are in need of God's grace. And there's something that happens when we decide, hey, I'm going to shift gears. I'm going to try and connect with Jesus. And as we position ourselves to see Jesus, he does something in us that starts to stir in us from actually, hey, I'm not going to take anymore, but I want to give. I want to offer just what I've got in my hands to make a difference. The last verse, Jesus says this, and the worship band can come up. He says, today, Jesus speaking here, understand this, Jesus speaking, he says, today salvation has come to this house because this man too is a son of Abraham. And don't miss this part. He says, for the Son of Man came to seek and to save the what? The lost. The Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost. I feel so often we as a community, we as a people, we can miss the bigger picture of what our mission is. We're so content with just cruising in second gear that we're like, oh, this is all there is. But this story of Zacchaeus reminds us again the heart of Jesus, that actually the reason he came was to bring salvation, to rescue, to help humanity, to help each and every one of us through his Son. And then he says, the reason I came was to seek and to save the lost. We as a church, it should be our heart to actually shift gears and say, hey God, I want to do whatever I can to see how I can help people who are lost, people who are going in the wrong direction, to turn around and to see your love and saving grace. This year, I said to myself, man, I really want to grow in my faith. I don't know if you've ever just had some time alone and sort of thought, man, where am I? Where am I at on my journey of faith? Where am I at? Maybe for some of you sitting here today, you have never even started the bike before because you're not with this whole God thing. But maybe today, I want to encourage you, why not just get on the bike? Don't even start it, all right? Why not just get on the bike? And if you get on the bike, we as a community are going to celebrate that. We're going to celebrate it. You don't have to change everything. You don't have to start reading the Bible. You don't have to put your hands up in worship. You don't have to give money. You don't have to do anything. Just get on the bike. Just take that first step and say, hey, maybe God, maybe, just maybe, I'm just going to think a bit more about faith. Maybe if you've been at that gear in your life, then maybe you actually need to start the bike today. Maybe you need to actually start it and hear it and just be like, man, this does sound good. This gospel, this heart of God, man, could this be? And if so, then why don't you just be like Zacchaeus and try and position yourself a bit more to see Jesus? How do you do that? Well, in the next couple of weeks, we're going to speak about it. Wherever you are on your faith journey, maybe you've been coming to church most of your life and still you're like, oh man, it feels like I'm coasting. And honestly, if you're stuck in second gear, you're not experiencing the fullness that Jesus wants to bring in and through your life. So if you really want to grow deeper this year, I hope that you will see God's heart, that his heart was to seek and to save the lost. If you really want to grow in your faith, then why don't you move across the room? Why don't you start trying to lead people into a growing relationship with God? Why don't you start moving to a need and actually start doing something and shifting gears and stepping out of your comfort zone and stepping into the faith zone where you can only say, hey, that this must have been a God thing. It's my heart. That's my prayer, that this church will be a church that is so messy, but that is continuously pointing people and helping people to see Jesus. God, today, you know where each and every one of us are, God, on our faith journey. And God, today, I pray that you can speak to us individually in a way that will just help us to take our next step, help us to just shift gears a bit, to say, God, just come and reveal yourself to me. Maybe some of us just need your love and your grace today, God, and I pray that we'll experience that. I pray that we can see the God that you are, a clear picture. But for others of us, God, we've been coasting along, we've been just cruising in second gear thinking, this is pretty sweet, but I pray that you'll challenge us to step outside of that comfort zone and to step into the faith zone and just be like, hey, God, show us, take us to places we've never been to. Take us to people where the need is so overwhelming that we can only depend on you for help. God, I pray that this church, this community can be a community that continues to make a difference in people's lives, and that when we gather together, we'll share stories of the significance that you are doing through our lives. Please, God, this is our prayer. This is our heart. This is our open hands today, saying, God, just use us. Just help us to shift gears.